Hey, I'm Jeremy. Welcome back to Rugby Informer. This week on the Boot Watch, we got an interesting boot, but one that kind of ties into a bigger topic in the rugby world, and that's injuries, and most specifically ACL and knee injuries. It's no secret that rugby players are extremely prone to ACL tears, ACL ruptures. Anyone who follows rugby would have heard that this has happened to a lot of players. The likes of Pieter-Steph du Toit, Handré Pollard, Quade Cooper. This is an injury that happens a lot, without going too deep into the biomechanics of it. It's a horrible twist of the knee, which essentially ruptures the anterior cruciate ligament, which runs down the middle of your knee. So the reason why this is relevant, or you're probably wondering why the hell am I telling you all this, because it's interesting background information for why these particular boots were designed and the features of them that supposedly prevent something like that happening. So we're looking at the Nike Phantom GX2. Now, its name's a bit of a mouthful. So Nike has a few boot models, obviously the Nike Premier 3, which we looked at in a previous episode, along with the Nike Mercurial series, which is very popular. They have the Vapor and Superfly that a lot of the wingers and outside backs wear, along with the Nike Tiempo Legend 10, which a lot of the playmakers and a lot of the backline and forwards are wearing. You see them on the likes of Handré Pollard, Marcus Smith. But one of the other models from the company is the Phantom series, which is kind of the brand's experimental boot that kind of takes a little bit from all the different models. And the Nike Phantom range is actually proved quite popular with a lot of people, although it's not promoted too much. It's extremely popular in the football world. A lot of guys like Haaland have a signature model, but you don't see them on the feet of too many rugby players. However, they are starting to pop up a lot more. Someone like Henry Slade, Ollie Lawrence, these guys have been wearing these boots a lot lately and seem to enjoy them for a number of different reasons. They're a little bit wider than the Vapors and the Superflies, a little bit more accommodating, a little bit more forgiving. But the most interesting thing about these boots is the stud pattern. A lot of the rugby players are wearing the SG model. Obviously, they're playing with steel studs. But the firm ground model is, in my books, the most interesting thing about them. Now, a little story of how these came to be. During the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup, Nike unveiled the Phantom Luna. It was a boot that was specifically designed for women. And the reason being that is it was supposed to help women reduce the risk of injury, because if you look at any statistics when it comes to ACL, MCL, PCL, knee injuries, women tend to have a higher degree of knee injuries just due to the fact of their ligaments, their biomechanics, their bone structures, things like that. So what Nike did is they created a very, very unique stud pattern in kind of a circular shape that they called the Cyclone 360. You can see it on the bottom of this boot. Now, obviously, they were women-specific boots, but a lot of men were obviously wearing them anyway. So Nike, I think, cottoned onto that and then took the sole plate and the stud pattern from the Phantom Luna and slapped it on the Phantom GX2. Now, looking at it, you might immediately think anyone, who's worn boots with blades are not safe. Blades don't turn in the ground, rather go for something conical. But what Nike claims is that due to the orientation and the shape of these blades, kind of having a thinner entry point and a wider exit point, is that they can plant in the ground and rotate very easily without creating a lot of torque or stress on your knees, allowing you to kind of cut and change angles or turn and pivot, whether you're turning and chasing a defender or turning to change angles, without your foot getting stuck in the ground and your knee going goodbye. Now, a lot of people have questioned Nike's research and hypothesis as to how they came up with the design to prevent this, but there's not too much information on that. Either way, they believe this thing can prevent injuries. And the truth of the matter is, while I hate to admit to sporting marketing gimmicks, they kind of do work. Now, it's basically impossible to prove whether they reduce injuries or anything like that. I myself have had an ACL injury, so I'm fairly cautious of anything overly aggressive or things getting stuck in the ground. Now, I've played in these boots for quite a bit, and I must say they do plant in the ground really aggressively. You get great bite and great traction, something very similar to Nike's Mercurial range. You kind of got this aggressive push-off, snap back from these studs. But they do kind of swivel on the ground a little bit. It's very, very minor, and it's not really going to be too noticeable for the average person, but they do seem to release from the ground a little easier. So they make for a really good boot if you're someone who likes the feeling of aggressive, speed-based traction with those strong studs that can kind of bite into the ground and give you that extra little bit of acceleration or that sharper edge when you're changing angles. But they are a little bit safer than some of the extremely aggressive stud patterns that are out from the big brands like Nike and Puma and Adidas. The layout of them is very different. Some of the placements of the studs are not in the usual place you'd expect studs to be, so there can be a little bit of stud pressure when you first start wearing them. They just feel a little bit different underfoot. Not necessarily bad or good, just different. And in terms of the sole plates, it's extremely flexible. You can almost bend these boots completely in half, which some people like, some people don't. Some people want more rigidity through the middle there. And the upper is this very, very soft fly knit, which Nike has used on other products. Very moldable to your feet. Anyone with fairly wide feet will be able to slip into these, whereas something like the Nike Mercurial Vapor or Superflies are almost exclusively for the thin-footed people. But yeah, it's a really good boot, really cool to check out. And if you're looking for something different and a bit tired of looking at all the usual boots out there, check out the Nike Phantom GX2. There's an Elite Pro Academy models along with a club that's a little bit different with its technology, but great boots, worth checking out. And if you're someone who likes the aggressive stud pattern and likes aggressive traction, but a little bit concerned about your knees on some surfaces, maybe they're the perfect ones to check out. But thanks again for watching the video. Please hit like, please hit subscribe. If there's anything you want to know about the Phantom GX2, please comment below, and we'll see you in the next one.